Three Stars, the Bud Light play of the game, and find out who wins Joey Vitale's work boots for the night. It's the First Community Credit Union postgame show.
5-3 the final score as the Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets tonight in game number 5 as the Blues now return home facing elimination for game number 6 on Friday. Welcome everyone into our St. Louis Blues postgame show, which is presented by First Community Credit Union. Alex Ferrario and Grant Francis with you. We'll get back out to Curbs and Joey in a bit to get their final thoughts with tonight's postgame breakdown that will include the Bud Light 3 stars of the game, Joe Vitale's work boots. We'll pick our Bud Light Crisp play of the game, and then we'll get into our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period. Ted Drew's 3 takeaways, hear from Jim Montgomery, hear from the Blues locker room, and all of that coming your way. Plus, we'll get your comments, your takeaways as well up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. You can go on over there and jump in on the post-game conversation. You can also do so on our text line 314-399-9646. But let's jump back into this one and break down what took place in the game in a really must-win situation, it felt like, for Winnipeg, because yes, it was tied 2-2. Yes, a team had to win 2, but Winnipeg did not want to go back to St. Louis, where they have been shellacked so far in this postseason, down and facing elimination. And frankly, Winnipeg looked like the more desperate team. It started 90 seconds into the first period that the Jets capitalized on the Blues, kind of looking off on the side.
Snuggerud can't get to the corner. Velarde will clear, and Morrissey breaks through center. Enters the blue zone and leaves to Connor. Turned it over to Thomas, who gave it back up to Scheifele. But helping out is Snuggerud. He goes off the wall. And a Winnipeg player, Appleton, goes down. No call. Jets get it in front and score. Kyle Connor. Off the messed up play behind the Blues net. Flips it in, and Winnipeg will take a 1-0 lead, a minute 23 into the first period.
Yeah, you could see what happened on that play as you heard Joe mention the stick that Appleton took to the face. He flies down along the boards behind the net, and he's laying there, and in that scrum is Ryan Suter, Robert Thomas, and Nick Leddy, along with Scheifele and Appleton. But Appleton is on the ice, and he makes the pass over to Scheifele, and the Blues stop. And it felt like they were expecting a penalty to be called because of the high stick. Thomas initially was reacting that way, and there was no whistle. And so Appleton makes the play to Scheifele. Scheifele's able to make the pass to Kyle Connor, who was standing in front of the net, and it was a quick tap-in shot that beats Jordan Binnington. So just a miscommunication behind the net, into the back of the net, and the Blues find themselves down early. But that would not be what stopped the Blues. I thought the first goal was going to be massively impactful in this game, but Nathan Walker and that WTF line had thoughts otherwise.
Up to the blue line, the tall body of Parayko holds it in. Backhands it down into the corner. Then it's Morrissey blowing a tire, but he gets up and the puck's right underneath him. Blues strip it. Shen through to Parayko, shooting it wide of the goal. Hard to get the handle on that one. And it's Appleton to the far side to Niederreiter, caught by Walker inside the blue line.
Well, that last chance set up by Parayko, all because Josh Morrissey, he bit the dust behind the net. No one around him, just caught an edge. Now it's still Blues in the offensive zone.
They hold it in. Fowler saucers it over to Parayko. Wrist shot deflected on. Rebound just misses Walker. Fox it back to Parayko in the slot. Firing it, and it's blocked before it gets to the goal. Now to Toropchenko. Turns, shoots. Wide it goes. And back to Fowler. Parayko again. Shot deflected. Score! Right in front of the net, Nathan Walker deflects it in for the Blues. And the Blues quickly tie the game. 16-18 to go. First period. We're tied 1-1.
It was a long offensive zone time for the Blues, and credit to Nathan Walker, who goes to the hard areas, stands in front of the net, but that WTF line keeping the play alive in the offensive zone, and Nathan Walker rewarded as they put the screen on Connor Hellebuck, and once again, a goaltender that can't make that save. Frankly, not an easy save to make when you got bodies in front, but it wasn't a whole lot of traffic as it was Nathan Walker and 2 Winnipeg Jets defensemen standing in front of the net. Walker picks up his first of the postseason, but then Winnipeg, before the end of that period, capitalized on another moment where the Blues got caught puck watching.
Down into the corner. Suter battles with Appleton. They get it to the blue line. Sandberg to the right point to Pionk. Back to Sandberg, and they score. Niederreiter left alone in front of the net. Gets the deflection in. His first of these playoffs. And the Jets have taken a 2-1 lead with 11:21 to go here in the first period.
Yeah, where the puck watching really came into play on this one was once again the play behind the net. Everybody was kind of manned up in this one, but it was Sandberg that started to float higher up from the offensive zone, and you had Nick Leddy and Zach Bolduc both follow him, which left Nino Niederreiter all alone in front of the net. Ryan Suter was on the outside trying to defend his player, and then the point shot just goes right on a Niederreiter stick, a deflected goal past Jordan Binnington, 2-1 deficit for the Blues. And it was the first time this season, in the postseason, I should say, that the Blues found themselves trailing by a goal after the first period. But at even strength, the Blues have found a little bit more offense, and they even things up early on in the second period.
Off of Falk. Jets are able to get the puck back, but then an errant play feeds Thomas the other way. Into the Winnipeg zone. Hitting the trailer. Snuggerud score! Jimmy Snuggerud ties it 2-2. 13:54 to go. Second period. Oh, Daddy, it's a close one in Winnipeg. Snuggerud, another one.
Chris Kerber getting into that one, and Snuggerud with the shot. Man, that's the one for me. And I know Connor Hellebuck, we'll get more into this on the Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. I know Hellebuck made a few more saves than what he has done in this series, but that goal by Jimmy Snuggerud was the prototypical example of the struggles that Connor Hellebuck is going through right now. Snuggerud didn't get all on that shot. He just came in off of that rush with Robert Thomas, took the shot. Hellebuck wasn't positioned properly, and it went right underneath Hellebuck's glove, and Snuggerud evened up the score. But then things would all shift towards the Winnipeg Jets. They outshot the Blues in that second period, 14-3. They had all of the offensive zone time, 80 to 20% Corsi rating in favor of the Winnipeg Jets, and one lucky bounce made it a 1-goal lead for Winnipeg.
DeMello is going to shoot it. Oh, it would have gone wide. It deflects off of the blocker of Binnington, then the butt of Parayko, and into the net, and the Jets lead for the third time in the game. That puck would have gone well wide.
It's the exact same goal that Justin Falk scored in game number 4. A shot that just bounces off of the rear end of a defenseman and into the back of the net. You saw that Colton Parayko looked up at the rafters and even went back to the bench and shrugged his shoulders. There's nothing you could do on those. Those are the lucky bounces that Jim Montgomery said after game 4 that players work to achieve. And so Dylan DeMello picks up his first goal of the postseason. Winnipeg goes back on top by a goal. But again, the Blues have found ways to tie up the score once, twice already in this one. But this time, the goal that made it a 2-goal lead went in Winnipeg's favor.
Jets get it in, far side, score. They worked it down the ice, created a 2-on-1, and they've made it a 4-2 game with 1:09 to go in the second period of play. It was just too much in the end, and they finally capitalized.
Yeah, this one was a result of a slow line change as Kyrud gets off, but Thomas and Buchnevich go off when the Winnipeg Jets have the puck in the neutral zone. And as they're getting off of the ice, that's when Winnipeg starts to rush up the ice. And they've got 3 guys versus 2. And Zach Bolduc is the third one that's catching up with Kyle Connor. But Leddy gets caught up trying to chase down Appleton. Appleton gets it to Connor, who gets in front of Bolduc. And it's a 2-on-1 play that Connor gets the pass right over the stick of Justin Falk, and then backhand shot by Nemesnikov, beating Jordan Binnington. So a bad line change leads to a rush up the ice, kind of similar to what happened in Game 4 once again, to where Robert Thomas got in front of Kyle Connor and went to the net and beat Connor Hellebuck. This one, Kyle Connor gets in front of Zach Bolduc and goes in 2-on-1 on Justin Falk. So a 3-2 lead for the Winnipeg Jets. You enter the third period, and the Blues really do have sustained zone time. 10 shots on goal, creating a little bit more offense. The difference was, though, Winnipeg did an outstanding job of keeping the Blues to the outside. Not a whole lot of net front presence, and even when there was net front presence, Blues weren't able to get shots on goal as Winnipeg had 14 blocked shots. So because of that, Jim Montgomery gets aggressive, pulls the goaltender. I like the decision when you're down by 2, with a little over 3 to play, but the empty net goal, a soft play on the boards in the offensive zone, zone led to Winnipeg, making the lead go by 3.
Neighbors over to Kyrou, and he'll turn it over to DeMello. That's chipped out to Appleton. Appleton looks ahead to Niederreiter with a man to Lowry down the middle. Empty net goal. Soft play in the offensive zone with the extra man. You're picking out of your own net. With an empty net, Joe, and that's the way it works. The Jets did what they needed to tonight.
Yep, they lost the board battle when you had the goaltender pulled. You can't afford to do that. Now, the Blues would get one back, and we'll play the audio because I thought this was the best player in the game tonight. It was Nathan Walker.
Blues tried to drag it in front. Fox, a shooting rebound. They score. Nathan Walker has 2 goals in the game. They make it 5-3. 51.4 seconds to go here in the third period.
So the fourth line gets one back for a 5-3 final score, though, as Nathan Walker picks up 2 goals in the game, and the WTF line comes up with 2 of the 3 goals for St. Louis. So that is our game recap in this one as the Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets 5-3. We got plenty more to get into, though. Curbs and Joey are going to have their breakdown on the other side, and then we'll get into my 3 takeaways, and we'll get to your 3 takeaways as well. You can hop on over with us over on our YouTube channel, 101 ESPN STL. Also our Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. We'll get to your takeaways there. 5-3 the final score. Blues fall to the Jets. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
What does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number and more about discovering the magic in life. At Edward Jones, our dedicated financial advisors are the people you can count on for financial strategies that help support a life you love. Because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. Learn more about our comprehensive approach to planning at edwardjones.com/findyourrich. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Nothing beats a tough, dominating, incredibly fast starting lineup. That's your St. Louis Blues and your quality Ford dealers. Test drive F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 47 years straight, and choose between gas, hybrid, and all-electric powertrains, or the Ford Bronco family of SUVs with off-road capability and always-on connectivity. Visit your quality Ford dealers for vehicles built for hockey season and every season. Ford, proud sponsor of the St. Louis Blues. Based on 1977-2023 CY total sales.
When it comes to your health, what do you deserve? At BJC Healthcare, we believe you deserve care when you need it. You deserve answers and peace of mind. You deserve the best hospitals, the latest treatments, and expert advice. You deserve to know someone is always on your side, to keep doing what you love, and to live your healthiest life. You deserve extraordinary care. Learn more at bjc.org/deserve.
Take your fandom to the next level. Blue season tickets for the 25-26 season are on sale now. Benefits include savings off the gate price, the best seat locations, plus concessions and retail discounts. You'll also get access to popular exclusive player events and True Blue benefits, an exclusive season ticket holder rewards program. Secure your seats today or explore ticket options by calling 314-622-BLUE or visiting stlouisblues.com.
Jets are able to get the puck back, but then an errant play feeds Thomas the other way. Into the Winnipeg zone. Hitting the trailer. Snuggerud score! Jimmy Snuggerud ties it 2-2. 13:54 to go. Second period. Oh, Daddy, it's a close one in Winnipeg. Snuggerud, another one.
We're giving Jimmy Snuggerud tonight's Bud Light play of the game. Easy to celebrate thanks to that play of the game and Bud Light. How about Jimmy Snuggerud? I know Donnie and I talked about this after game 2, but now he's played 5 playoff games in his NHL career. By the way, 20 years old and has only played 12 games in the National Hockey League, and he's got 2 goals and 3 points in 5 games against the best team in the National Hockey League, the Winnipeg Jets. And I thought Jimmy Snuggerud was the best forward in the top 6 tonight for the Blues. So we'll give him tonight's Bud Light Crisp play of the game following a Blues 5-3 loss to the Winnipeg Jets. As we're back here on our St. Louis Blues postgame show, which is presented by First Community Credit Union. We're up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL, on our Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. We'll get to our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways in a bit, but now let's get the breakdown with Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale.
Okay, Alex, thank you. Well, the Winnipeg Jets get the 5-3 win. Each team has held serve on home ice, and now if the Blues are going to have a chance to advance in the playoffs, they're going to have to win 2 in a row, and it's going to have to start Friday night at home. So, Joe, it's a Game 6 Friday night home game for the St. Louis Blues. Winnipeg did what they needed to do. 21 shot attempts for the Blues through the first 2 periods. Bottom line is they just didn't have enough through the first 2 to give themselves a chance in this one heading into the third.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, listen, the Winnipeg Jets, they sucked the Blues in to play in the game that the Jets wanted to play. They defended very tight. They started with the lead. Even when the Blues found that equalizer, they continued just to find the lead once again. Ultimately, they put the Blues in too big of a hole where they couldn't claw back. This team is very good with the lead. They protect the lead very well. They only struggle coming from behind. So those first goals are important. I thought Winnipeg certainly brought the push in that first. I think the game really started to kind of turn over in the second. Once again, it's the 3rd game in a row in this building that the game, to me, was shifted in that second period where you felt the heat coming. You felt the wave of Winnipeg Jets coming. Offensive zone time started to build. They started to see the depth of line after line, shift after shift, the wear and tear of the Blues defenders, and it burnt them. That Nemestikov rush chance against from Kyle Connor really hurt them. That, to me, was the biggest goal of the game, where the Blues really couldn't claw out of it at that point at all. But overall, like you said, Curbs, this was a game where the Blues looked more like the team that we saw in games 1 and 2. Can they come home and find what they were in games 3 and 4? Because they're going to need it at this point because their season depends on it.
One thing is very clear. Both coaches in this series can downplay the questions about matchups. Home ice matchups have been absolutely the key to the series.
They've been very big. I mean, you saw Mike Weber multiple times trying to get Colton Parayko out there against this Kyle Connor line. Of course, with the last change here, that kind of hurt them quite a bit, where I think it was a little bit of shuffling. But you look at Nick Leddy and Ryan Suter. Ryan Suter, back in the lineup after missing a couple. I thought he took a little while to kind of get into the game. Nick Leddy didn't really look like he was his full self. It's amazing what that injury to Tyler Tucker, I don't think people appreciate what that fully means. You lose a player like we lost Dylan Holloway, it just reshuffles everything. Tyler Tucker's a player to me that it kind of reshuffles everything. Players got to start playing on their offside. Means you're going to lean more into playing Colton Parayko and Fowler more, maybe because Suter's not at the point of missing the last couple to come into a game like this and really play 20, 21 minutes like Falk did the other night. So a lot of things change on that end. But, injuries on the flip side to kind of turn into now the Winnipeg Jets. Mark Scheifele missed the last 2 periods. He took a hit from Shen. He took a hit from Foxa there to end the first. He did not return. And Curbs, I know enough about Mark Scheifele to know that he's a tough kid. So this is something that, is it going to be a lingering injury that lasts the rest of the series? Is it going to go into Friday? Will he make a return on Friday? That's still up in the air. Everything is very undercovered, under wraps when it comes to injuries here in the playoffs, but that could be a huge loss as well. So injuries are mounting, the physicality between both teams, the punishment that they are providing towards each other. You're starting to see the remnants of it now. You're starting to see the shrapnel coming apart, where you look at different players kind of falling out. Robert Thomas did not look himself after that Stanley hit in the 3rd period as well. He was the first off the ice with 1 glove off. So a lot of things the players are playing through right now, but certainly the physicality is becoming an important kind of altering factor as the series continues to move on.
I think that's a point worth echoing again a little bit here, because you will look at things. We saw Jordan Kyrou take the big hit from Stanley. Jordan Kyrou really hasn't had much of an impact on this series here. That hit came early on. What I caution fans to do is, before you look and you judge too much, you just don't know how hits like that, injuries and things that come out. Now, you may end up finding out that no, there weren't any injuries or something like that. But I'm telling you, we've seen enough playoffs over the years. I'm not suggesting he's hurt. I'm not suggesting he's not. What I'm saying, though, is when you see hits like that and you see players not be as effective as they can be, when you get to this time of the year, you kind of got to wait to find out afterwards. And because you could find out. You could have a Nick Leddy who had a bit of a tough game here tonight, right? And you can find out that there's something going on. You can find out in the end a guy has a great series, and exactly what he was playing through. Those are the things that wear on as the series go along. Joe, you look at the ice time, of the St. Louis Blues, and once again, amazingly balanced despite the fact that you were chasing a game.
Yeah, I almost wonder is an adjustment coming when it comes to Friday evening there in St. Louis, because now it's your season is on the line. But you mentioned injuries. Colton Parayko is a player to me that can play 24, 25 minutes.
Right.
He has done it this year. His numbers aren't really touching that. Is that an indication of maybe him playing through the injury that,
21-14 this game, and this is the first time in 5 games in this series he's over 21 minutes.
So, to me, that's where you look at some of the injuries and trying to protect players and making sure that you're kind of balancing things out across the board. Is that something to do with it? I don't know. But I do know that, I think that a lot changes when it comes to an elimination game as far as who you play, how you play them. It is something to kind of bring up, too, with the physicality of this series. These players that are kind of inching their way into a playoff round, dealing with, injuries. As physical as this one has been, this is where I think the physicality really can win you a series. Now, we still can see the aftermath of who is going to take that edge. But you look at that hit by Braden Shen on Mark Scheifele, it's a 2-minute minor. The Blues have had a great kill all series. It's been one of the really big bright spots. I don't think that the St. Louis Blues are shying away from playing that physical brand. And I don't think you need to, because your kill has been so good. If that hit, maybe it was the hit from Shen that he delivered on Scheifele. Although illegal, those are the hits, like you mentioned before, that can really turn a series over. So we will see kind of how things kind of pan out. But no doubt about it, Scheifele took some very, very hard hits in this game, and it could have a big impact.
Yeah, well, he did not come out for the second period, did not come out for the third, only played 8 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, the Jets had Nikolai Ehlers in a non-contact jersey today. We'll see if Nikolai Ehlers is available on Friday. That's another big get-back. Gabriel Velarde, he was just okay in this game. And, obviously a spark that allowed them to shuffle their lineups just a little bit here. But either way, Joe, the Blues are coming home, and now you've got home ice to try to hold serve again, and you have to hold serve or your season is over.
Well, I think that they're in a good spot. I mean, listen, this Blues team has been doggone flawless, not only from a score standpoint, from a wins column standpoint, but just the style that they play. I mean, there's something about that home sheet that just activates these defensemen. I think that was really a big sore spot in tonight's game. I didn't see Fowler up in the rush a lot. I didn't see Falk and Colton really kind of take charge and really drive the offense. This team is at their best when their defensemen are driving the offense. That's why they have the most points of any defensive group in the National Hockey League right now in these playoffs. Only second is Colorado with the Cale Makars and the Girards and the Taves. So it kind of really goes to show you where the Blues defensemen and how they're contributing offensively has impacted the series. When it's going, the Blues look good. When it's a little bit absent, like it was in tonight's game, it's a little bit slower, and they look like a very different team. So that, to me, is what home ice is going to be all about for this Blues team. Defensemen got to get back to driving. I think Jim Montgomery is going to find luxury in having that matchup that he ideally wants, especially with a potential Mark Scheifele out of the lineup. Really could shake things up here a little bit. And Jordan Bennington's numbers, they just don't lie at home. He has just been flawless ever since the Four Nation break, literally. So I think they feel very confident about this one. It really comes down to the fact that they knew they'd have to win one in this building. They don't take care of it here tonight. I think they feel confident going home and ultimately, hopefully, a Game 7 here as they return, because they're going to have to win one in order to move on to the second round.
All right, what do you have your Bud Light 3 stars of the game in your work boots?
Nemestikov is going to be number 3. Nathan Walker for the Blues, number 2. And you got to go with Kyle Connor with the number 1 star once again. I'm going to go with Radek Faksa for the work boots. He had a couple of just booming hits. His faceoffs have been so good in this series. His kills have been great. Blocking a lot of shots, but it was ultimately the hit on Mark Scheifele that we did not see Scheifele return in the game. A legal hit right at the blue line, open ice hit, but just a solid body, solid just shoulder-to-shoulder contact right there for Faksa. So for me, that hit alone earns you the work boots.
All right, so the St. Louis Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 5-3. Jets take a 3-2 series lead and put the Blues in a must-win situation on Friday night. Let's get you back to St. Louis. Alex Ferrario standing by.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, it must-win situation, but frankly, it's odd how calming that feels for a team that's been playing must-win since the Four Nations break. Now, maybe things will go the opposite direction, but it does seem like, and even Jordan Binnington said, our backs have been against the wall since the Four Nations break. It feels like this team plays better when they know they have to win a hockey game. Look at how they played in games 3 and 4. Look at how they played against Utah on home ice, where they knew they had to win to get into the playoffs. They had to win to stay in this series. That seems to be when this team brings out their best stuff. And the part that I will find very fascinating is now you go back to 1 day off in between. Now you don't have the extra day to practice and work on things. Now you just go into playoff hockey where it's game, day off, game. How do the Winnipeg Jets adjust? How do the Blues adjust? That's going to be the narrative before Friday for game number 6. And that game will be at Enterprise Center, 7 o'clock puck drop. Thank you, Florida, and thank you, Washington. 7 o'clock puck drop for game number 6 at Enterprise Center, which means our pregame skate begins at 6:30 on the St. Louis Blues Radio Network, 6 o'clock over on our flagship station, 101 ESPN. We still got plenty to get to. We've got our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. We're going to hear from Braden Shen, Justin Falk, hopefully hear a little from Jim Montgomery, and we're going to hear from you as well. A 5-3 final score. Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets, now trail the best-of-7 series 3-2, and we'll talk to you on Friday for Blues and Jets Game 6 right here on the St. Louis Blues Radio Network.
St. Louis Blues hockey has been brought to you by Enterprise, hometown partner of the St. Louis Blues. You can count on Enterprise to keep you moving forward. By Stiefel, hometown partner of the St. Louis Blues, invested in your success since 1890. By Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the St. Louis Blues. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. By BJC Healthcare. You deserve extraordinary care. By Washington University Orthopedics, team physicians for the St. Louis Blues and you. By Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Blues and Enterprise Center. By Toyota, Blues fans score big with a new Toyota. Visit your St. Louis area Toyota dealers today. Toyota, let's go places. By Pepsi Zero Sugar, full Pepsi flavor without the calories. It's delicious, it's refreshing. Pepsi Zero Sugar, zero never tasted so good. The official soft drink of the NHL and your St. Louis Blues. And by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The real deal for real deals since 1976. This has been a presentation of St. Louis Blues hockey through the facilities of 101 ESPN Radio. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. It's time for the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, powered by Scott Lee Heating Company.
On 101 ESPN.
Jets are able to get the puck back, but then an errant play feeds Thomas the other way. Into the Winnipeg zone. Hitting the trailer. Snuggerud score! Jimmy Snuggerud ties it 2-2. 13:54 to go. Second period. Oh, Daddy, it's a close one in Winnipeg. Snuggerud, another one. DeMelo's going to shoot it. Oh, it would have gone wide. It deflects off of the blocker of Binnington, then the butt of Parayko, and into the net, and the Jets lead for the third time in the game. That puck would have gone well wide. Jets get it in, far side, score. He worked it down the ice, created a 2-on-1, and they've made it a 4-2 game with 1:09 to go in the second period of play. It was just too much in the end, and he finally capitalized.
Yeah, they capitalized. That second period, not a good one for the Blues. Welcome in to our extended post-game coverage. We call it the fourth period here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. 5-3 the final score as the Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets out in Winnipeg. Now they get the flight back home, and as Jim Montgomery just said moments ago with the media, we're on to game number 6, and we'll hopefully hear a little from Jim Montgomery in just a bit. We're also going to hear from Justin Falk and Braden Shen, but Grant, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Rather than go to the audio, let's jump right into our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways.
It's time for tonight's 3 takeaways, presented by Ted Drew's.
Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's. It's St. Louis.
So I wanted to jump right into the takeaways because we're seeing a lot of people comment over on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. Also on our Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. So jump on in the conversation with us over on our YouTube channel, 101 ESPN STL, talking about this game. And I think the massive sentiment that I'm seeing from people is surprised of how much of a dud this was for the Blues. I can understand that, but I'm also not going to take away credit for Winnipeg, too. Like, Winnipeg was... This can be an even series, and you can see it where it's 2-2. All of the pressure was on Winnipeg. Winnipeg knew they could not afford to lose this game because you'd be going back to St. Louis, facing elimination, where your best goaltender, the best asset you have for your team, has not been good since the Four Nations break. You have to win. The first period, in my opinion, was even. The second period is where things really got blown out of the water in favor of Winnipeg. And to me, you're already a desperate team that lost Mark Scheifele. That means you have to go into perfection mode. You cannot make mistakes. You cannot take chances. No coincidence, you didn't see a lot of extracurriculars with Winnipeg. You didn't see them getting into a lot of post-whistle stuff. They were focused on the offense, and they were focused on making sure the Blues could not get past the neutral zone. So I personally, it was a dud, yes, but I expected that push from Winnipeg. I think I'm more surprised that the Blues did not have a push back. And that's one of my takeaways in this one tonight. You were right there with them in the first period. You went toe-to-toe with them. You had the penalties. They had the penalties. No team scored on the power play. And so you were going off of even strength. And look, you had 2 breakdowns in the defensive zone with Suter and Leddy on the ice that led to Winnipeg scoring right in front of the net. And you scored right in front of the net. Connor Hellebuck, and it felt like he looked a little shaky in that first period. And then you opened up that second period, and you get the goal by Snuggerud off of the rush. But after that Snuggerud goal, for the rest of that second period, there was no offensive push. There was no rolling 4 lines. There was no sustained zone time. Corsi rating was 81 to 18%. And I wrote this one down. Your top 6 forwards had 12 shot attempts in this game tonight. 5 of those 12 shot attempts came from Jimmy Snuggerud. Prior to the third period, your top 6, 4 of the top 6 players did not have a shot attempt. It was Shen, it was Buchnevich, it was Thomas, it was Kyrou. So 4 of your 6 without a shot attempt through 2 periods. And then in the third period, you got 12 from your top 6, but 5 of those 12 came from Jimmy Snuggerud. To put that into perspective, your WTF line tonight, Walker, Toropchenko, and Faksa, had 10 shot attempts. 10 shot attempts for 3 guys versus 12 shot attempts from 6 guys, and really 7 shot attempts from 5 guys. That's just not good enough. You're not getting enough offensive zone time. You're not getting enough sustained opportunities. And some of this, my second takeaway, is on the defensive side of things. Defensively, they just weren't activated enough. And again, I'll give Winnipeg some credit of making adjustments. I thought what Winnipeg was doing was having multiple guys in the neutral zone. So when the Blues tried to create that rush up the ice, first of all, it started on the forecheck from Winnipeg. They were pressuring St. Louis to where they weren't able to make those outlet passes as easy as they were making in Games 3 and Games 4. But then it felt like they had 3 guys standing in the neutral zone with your 2 forwards chasing on the back check. And the Blues weren't able to skate through it. They weren't able to dump the puck in and go win those battles because they were having to dump it in from the neutral zone, and then you just got odd numbers going against you. And I also didn't think the Blues were winning those puck battles along the boards. But look, you had 7 shot attempts from your defensemen through 2 periods of play. Again, they turned it on in the third. There were 11 total solely in the third period, but you just did not have that sustained wave. Joey talks so much about feeling like it's a wave that just keeps coming in. It just keeps coming in. You just didn't have that tonight. I felt like at times you lost Falk and Broberg out there. It felt at times that Leddy and Suter really did not have that offensive opportunities like Leddy and Tucker did in the last couple of games. You started to see it go through the neutral zone with Parayko and Fowler, but it just was not good enough against Winnipeg. And again, I'm going to give that team credit because they played the desperate brand of hockey that they needed to play. The third takeaway from me, and I hate to be super negative with this one, but I mean, even Jim Montgomery said, look, that was the worst game we've played this postseason, and we're moving on to game number 6. We're going to hear from Braden Shen coming up in just a couple of minutes. The third takeaway for me, eerily similar to what games 1 and games 2 were missed opportunities. One, they did not have Mark Scheifele for the second and third period. And good on the Blues for being physical. I mean, I know Jim Montgomery was very adamant it had nothing to do with the Shen hit. He says it was the Radek-Faksa one that was a little bit later on in the period, which makes sense because the Scheifele getting hit by Shen, he took 4 more shifts throughout the rest of that first period. Faksa came a little bit later in that period, and that's where, of course, Faksa gets injured, or Scheifele gets injured, doesn't come back in the game. Missed opportunities in the front of Scheifele was not there, which took away that top line. But the adjustments they made, Nemesnikov moving up to that line with Connor and Velarde, they beat you for 2. But also it feels like, again, you didn't pounce on the opportunity against a shaky goaltender. And it's the one area that I just disagree with Joe on. And, I mean, look, Joe knows more about hockey than I do. But I felt like there were a couple of good saves by Connor Hellebuyck in this one. The stick save that he made on Sundqvist on that 2-on-1 was a really good save. But, Grant, you pointed it out. That also was a wide-open net that Sundqvist just hit the far side on, which is where Hellebuyck is only going to be able to make that save. But even after that, the neighbor's one-timer, it was blocked in front. You had a couple of saves that he made in traffic. I just didn't feel like him giving up that Walker goal, the first one, that was traffic, but it's not the same traffic we've seen. That wasn't like there were 5 guys in front of him. There was 2 guys. It was one defenseman and Nathan Walker. But that Jimmy Snuggerud goal to me was the moment Connor Hellebuyck was like, okay, fragile. You got to pounce. And you didn't, because after Snuggerud took that shot, the Blues had 2 shots on goal the rest of that period. Again, I think this is credit to Winnipeg of our goaltender did make that save. Guys, we need to tighten up. And they did. Credit to them. They just did not allow the Blues to get out of the neutral zone. But I also feel like that's problematic if you're not finding ways to push back when Winnipeg made those adjustments.
Yeah, for me, I kind of leave this game feeling a little bit like, a lot of people felt after game 1, which is the feeling of missed opportunity a little bit. That game 1, you put up those goals on Connor Hellebuyck and you're unable to come out with a victory after being up 3-2. In this one, it's a little bit different because you didn't lead, but you were getting to Connor Hellebuyck early with those 2 goals. It was 2 goals on the first 7 shots in this game for Connor Hellebuyck. And I agree with you, Alex. Like that Oscar Sundqvist play, it is a really good save, but let's be real. Like Oscar Sundqvist had the entire net to shoot at, and he ended up shooting it in the only area that Connor Hellebuyck could get back to. And not taking anything away from Connor, that was a heck of a save. But that is what it is. And then the rest of the way, the Blues had some chances, but I didn't get the feeling that there were any overwhelming high-danger chances the rest of the way. It didn't feel like Connor Hellebuyck had to make any dazzling saves the rest of the game. He was solid the rest of the game, but there weren't any saves that you look back on, you're like, wow, that was a series-changing save right there, you know?
Yeah.
So it feels more to me like Winnipeg just sort of imposed themselves in this game, and the Blues didn't have an answer for it after they tied that game. Winnipeg took control. It was kind of after that 3-2 goal, that DeMello goal where it was just a weird one that went off Parayko and in, that felt like a little bit of a deflator, and Winnipeg just took the rest of the game over.
Yeah, it really felt that way, and I mean, it's not a game where I'm walking out of being like, oh no, Connor Hellebuyck woke up. Like, if that was the case, there'd be a little bit more concern right now. But it didn't feel like Connor Hellebuyck robbed this game. I actually give credit to Winnipeg's defense. They did a great job of eliminating the Blues rush and eliminating the front of the net. And that's what this one came down to. And frankly, that's how Winnipeg can win. We had I'm blanking on his name right now, but we had a Winnipeg Jets hockey coach on with us earlier today who essentially said, like, look, he's like, the Winnipeg Jets don't need to worry about Hellebuck stealing a game. What they need to do is make sure that Hellebuck can see all of the passes, all of the shots. If he can, we'll be fine. He doesn't need to he doesn't need to be the hero of the series. He just needs to make the save. And he made the saves. He made the Sundqvist one. He made the Neighbors one. He made the 2 saves that he needed to make. But I don't think the Blues made enough of it a challenge on Connor Hellebuck to put this one out of reach. Okay, I want to talk about this real quick, and then we'll hear from Braden Shen, because now we've got a little coaching back and forth. So Jim Montgomery, I told you, he was very adamant about how the Shen hit on Radek Fox, or the Shen hit on Mark Scheifele, is not what injured Mark Scheifele. He said Radek Fox's hit on Mark Scheifele is what hurt him. This was Scott Arniel with the press a little bit ago. He's not I'm reading from Ken Wiebe, by the way. This isn't a quote from Arniel, but this is Ken Wiebe. Scott Arniel doesn't have much of an update on the status of Scheifele, though he wasn't thrilled with Jim Montgomery suggesting the hit was a result of the Radek Foxa hit later in the period. Arniel felt Braden Shen left his feet on the hit. It could have been a major and at least should have been reviewed. Also mentioned it was the type of hit that has occurred multiple times in the series and has been discussed. Okay, so let's go into this now. Let's go into the nuts and bolts of this. The Shen hit happened 6 minutes and 37 seconds into that first period. Mark Scheifele took 4 more shifts for the rest of that period. Radek Foxa hit Mark Scheifele with 2 minutes and 58 seconds left on the clock. Foxa hit Scheifele. He went off the ice. Scheifele took 1 more spin, 50-second shift. The period ended. He did not return. So if you believe that Braden Shen's hit is what injured Mark Scheifele, why did Mark Scheifele take 4 more shifts on the ice? That would be my question. It's pretty evident that Radek Fox's hit. Now, maybe Shen started it and Fox's hit emphasized it. I don't know if I felt like it was a major. He left his feet, there's no doubt about it, but it didn't look like it was a headshot. Looked like he kind of went for the chest, Braden Shen did, and that's when Mark Scheifele fell backwards. Obviously, Winnipeg took exception to it, and you saw the penalties that were doled out, but I don't really know if this was a matter of needs to be reviewed by the league, but apparently Jim Montgomery has mentioned it. Now, of course, these are the reporters asking this, and Scott Arniel is a little frustrated with this one. So let's hear from Braden Shen, the man that, of course, is on that topic, the captain after his team's 5-3 loss.
You know, we didn't stall any forward checks. You know, credit to them. They were better at the goal lines tonight, and you know. Turn the page, move on, and we'll be ready for Game 6.
You guys had done that so well in Games 3 and 4. What changed?
I mean, there's adjustments always, right? And I just don't think we liked our game tonight at the end of the day. You know, we weren't good enough tonight to turn the tides. We got some key goals at key times and just weren't able to grab the momentum after that. Obviously, a little bit deflating. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's you turn the page and move on and go to Game 6.
What did you think about your head? Did you think it was a fair hit in your shoulders? Nothing.
I haven't seen the replay, but I don't believe I hit him in the head. So,
feel like that changed the game at all after he left, and it seemed like to amp them up a little bit.
Sure. I don't think we played good tonight. You know, we got to be better, and we know that, and we'll be ready for Game 6.
How confident are you guys going back home? The way you've played there since February.
They're a good team. They're a good team, but you know, we've played some good hockey at home for a couple months now, so we're comfortable there, and you know, fans get behind us and played well in games. Obviously, Games 3 and 4, and like I said, you know, it's going to be a tight series, tough series. They're a good team, and you know, a lot of back and forth with momentum swings, and so far, you know, the road team hasn't been able to get the job done, and it's our turn to get one at home now.
With the way the last 2 games went with Hellebuck, there just need a case where you need to get more shots on him in this game.
Everything, shots, traffic, made it too easy on him tonight, and we know that.
There you go, Braden Shen. One, of course, talking about the hit where he said, I didn't feel like it got him in the head. And, I mean, watching the replay, it didn't look like he hit him on the head. I'm not trying to sound like a homer here. I'm just reading off of where the hit was and then also reading off the times of Mark Scheifele taking other shifts. But the bigger one, of course, is him talking about going back on home ice. And I agree with him. Look, this is a really good team, the Winnipeg Jets, but we've been a really good team on home ice. They've won 14 straight games on home ice and have not lost. So for the Blues, obviously this is a little bit of an advantage for them. Let's hear a little from Justin Falk after his team's loss.
Just in the second period, can you get away from you guys? They seem to have a lot of time in the zone there.
Yeah, we didn't really kind of establish our forecheck to kind of have them in and get them in three-quarter ice. They were able to do that to us a little bit. And then obviously got a couple goals there to kind of pull away with the lead a bit. They're the better team in the second period there.
I know what you just said. You couldn't establish a forecheck, but anything in your own zone trying to get the puck out in that period that kind of hurt you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was they were kind of beating us to both goal lines, so we spent a lot of time in our end and not as much in theirs.
Is one of those energy things or whatever that they had more tonight, or?
No, not in this type of game. I don't think the energy is necessarily favoring one team or not. Every team is pretty amped up for the game tonight. But listen, they got the better of us tonight. But we got Game 6 at home and a job to do, and place we're comfortable playing and comfortable with our group, and expect a good effort that night.
See anything change when Scheifele left? It seemed like their kind of secondary guys kind of really stepped up.
I don't know exactly what point of the game he left, but yeah, they had to move some guys up the lineup, shuffle the lines a bit. I think a couple of them were able to score some goals. We got to do a little bit better job at our net and not let them get in tight.
Yeah, you got to going home. You guys have been, especially the way you guys played in games 3 and 4, confident feeling going into that game.
Yeah, absolutely. We know we can play better, and we know what this group's capable of. We're excited to get back home, get the job done there, and you never know. We just got to win that one and then get to Game 7.
Just what do you think it is when you guys do have limited shots on net in a period? It seems like it's always really low, like 2 or 3. Is it just a case of not being able to get out of that within the period? You need to get to the intermission and reset? Or?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that way. Just like I said, we weren't able to get to our forecheck as well as we would have liked and spend as much time in their zone and limited our scoring chances.
There you go. That's Justin Falk following the team's loss tonight. I don't think we're going to hear from Jim Montgomery. We don't have the audio. Obviously, they're out in Winnipeg. So just kind of relaying some of the information that I've seen from Jim Montgomery. And like we said, very adamant, according to Jeremy Rutherford, that the hit on Scheifele was not, or the injury to Scheifele was not because of Braden Shen. It was because of the Radek Faksa hit. I just tweeted out kind of the time frame in this one. He was hit by Shen, took 3 more shifts, averaging about 1 minute and 11 seconds, then was hit by Faksa, took 1 more shift at 50 seconds, and then did not return because it was the end of the period. One more from Jim Montgomery. They were better than us. We've got to be more connected. I didn't think our puck support was good enough. I didn't think we got back quick enough. I didn't think we won our forecheck. We didn't establish it. It's every facet. But you know what? It's a series. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, we're not happy about it, but we're on to the next one. It's as simple as that. We've got to forget about it. We're in a series now. Look, there's nothing you could say for a game like this. It was a bad game. They have to be better, and you find out if they will be better. We've seen this Blues team adjust on the fly, and that's the biggest thing for me. They seem to play their best hockey when their backs are against the wall. Again, lost 3 in a row as the Blues We're on the road. They come home. They play Utah. They won that game. They had to win it. And then you get into the playoffs. You lose 2 in Winnipeg. You come back home. You know you have to win 2. They do so. Now your backs are against the wall one last time. I believe we have Scott Arniel, Grant. So let's go hear the Winnipeg Jets head coach.
Homework, and the guys kind of expanded on what the last couple of days looked like, and I guess you're the teacher. I'm interested in how proud you are of the response that you got from your pupils in executing your game plan.
Yeah, I thought it was throughout the lineup. It was outstanding. I thought that everybody stepped up, and obviously finding out that Scheif wasn't coming back. But even prior to that, I thought we had a great first, and we were physical. We were battling, competing, doing all the things we had to do, to get ourselves going. And just real proud of the way the guys stuck together and just played our game. We got the jet hockey. We got the jet hockey early, and we played it for 60 minutes.
Scott, what is Mark's status, and how will it affect his...
We'll wait and see here. Obviously, we'll just wait and see where we're at. About to get him, see how he is later tonight, and see tomorrow. So. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see till tomorrow. I'll find out what's going on. Don't discuss it. We don't discuss injuries especially at this time of year.
There was a time where you guys picked up Vladislav Nemesnikov for a 4th-round pick. It didn't make huge headlines. It wasn't a national story, but he comes out and has a game like this for you, stepping up when Scheifele gets hurt. What can you say about his performance?
Wow, it was unbelievable. We certainly needed it big time, and that's been our group. Our group has had to step up all year long with injuries, and that was huge for us to go into that role. Not only playing on that top line with Gabe and KC, but he's also running into Thomas's line close to every shift. So he's a good pro, and he whatever's been thrown at him, he takes on that challenge and does a fantastic job.
Scott, you had a long discussion with the referee before the second. What were your thoughts on the shin hit?
Well, I didn't know Monty got his medical degree. I'm trying to say how our player got hurt. He's way off base. Should not make that comment. There's some things that have been going on in this series, and that was a repeat of what we've seen before. A player leaving his feet and then hitting a player in a very unprotected spot, like hitting them in the sense almost blindsiding them. Not happy how the call was made. 2-minute minor. Not even looking at it is what I was upset about. And it is something that we have talked to the league about for 5 games.
How would you describe the paddle save that Hellebuck made?
Those are special. Obviously changes the game probably if they goes in, but that was a big time moment that that's a game changer. It really is, and that's what we needed. He said you guys talked to him, I talked to him, and he delivered.
Last one, guys.
When you've talked to the league, as you have for 5 games, about situations like this, what do they say to you?
I think I have to keep that one to myself, to us. We communicate after every game. There's some things that happen, and I'm sure that St. Louis has some things that they're complaining about, but there's things that we've noticed that have been going on since game 1, and that hit is a lot of what we've been talking about. Thank you.
There you go. That's Scott Arniel following the 5-3 victory. I've watched this highlight probably 15 times since I saw the Scott Arniel cut because of all of this. To me, it doesn't look like a headshot. Go watch the Aaron Ekblad hit from the other night against Tampa. He got a 2-game suspension for that. His forearm is up, going at the head. This one felt like, look, Braden Shen leaves his feet, but it's on the follow-through. It's not prior to the hit. There's the difference there. And the part that gets me is Scott Arniel saying, we've had a lot of conversations about some of the hits in the series. Am I missing hits in this series that have been dirty? I feel like we've seen a lot of clean hits.
Is there a singular hit that you can remember from this series? Because the only hit that comes to mind for me when I think of a huge hit in this series
was Shen on Lowry and Stanley on Kyrou.
It was the Stanley on Kyrou one.
And Shen on Lowry was the other one that I was thinking of. But, I mean, I feel like Shen on Lowry was a really good hit. But he made the comment of, when no-look hits or things like that. Boy, I don't feel like I've seen that right now. And, I mean, I'm not trying to, like, pick apart Winnipeg's coach. It sounds like complaining. And it's a weird thing to do after a 5-3 win. I know you're frustrated because your guy got injured. But, I mean, watching it, Shen slows up. He recognizes that Scheifele's not looking at him. He kind of puts his arms in front of his chest. Shen does. Like, he puts them like an X over his chest, which, where Ekblad got fined, Ekblad's forearm went out at Hagel's face. And then when he followed through with the check, that's where Scheifele went down. Shen did not put his whole body into this one. But, man, like the comment of, well, I didn't know Jim Montgomery got his medical degree. He stepped over the line there. Hey, man, I understand the gamesmanship here, but I do not feel like this series has been a dirty series. That's the one narrative that I don't think should be labeled on this. We have seen playoff hockey. We have seen two teams that have played physical, that have played hard. Foxa told you this has been the most physical series he's played in the playoffs ever. I feel like it's going to start getting damper or watered down by saying, like, oh, yeah, they're playing dirty, especially Braden Shen. I mean, has Shen ever been suspended?
Well, and that hit could have been a lot worse.
Oh, absolutely, because Scheifele was not looking.
Well, and Braden Shen glided into that hit. It's not like he took a couple strides and went after Scheifele. He glided into that hit. It's textbook for how you approach a hit. Now, did he come up a little bit high? Maybe, yeah, but Scheifele's head was down a little bit too. So, to me, yeah, no, it wasn't a super dirty hit. Call a penalty, sure, but a major, I don't see it.
So Shen's been fined twice, or he's been suspended twice in his career, both for charging infractions. One was in 2012. The other was against TJ Oshie in 2016. But he wasn't a part of the Blues. He was a part of the Capitals, but nonetheless. Anyway, it's a tangent that I probably didn't need to go on to tonight. It sucks when the narrative becomes that they're playing dirty, because then everybody goes to, it's the same thing with Binnington, right? The antics, and everybody complained about it. It's like, no, man, Binnington's trying to do something. He's trying to pull his team into the fight. I don't feel like Braden Shen had a dirty hit in this one. But again, I guess if we'd be looking at this on the other side, if that was Thomas and Scheifele's spot, we'd be probably saying the same thing.
I don't know, because did anybody complain when Jordan Kyrou got hit?
No.
Now, Jordan Kyrou wasn't injured. But
he wasn't looking, and Stanley went at him. Now, I have to go back and look at this. The part for me is them saying that he left the feet. He left the feet on the follow-through. And it's different because typically when you say the guy left his feet on the hit,
you're charging at him.
You're going off your skates at the player. This one did not feel this way. I will say, though, in this one, it did feel like a little bit of a turning moment for the game. You have that hit. Scheifele doesn't come back. What happens in the second period? Winnipeg comes out and dominates. But if that's the tone you're going to take, I don't really know if that's the one I'd want to be taking with my team up 3-2 in a series going back to St. Louis. Again, just my perspective on this one. So we'll find out, but now the fireworks are going off, which always makes for great series moving forward, and we'll find out kind of what the league has to say, if the league has anything to say about that Braden Shen hit. I've seen all the videos now of Jim Montgomery talking about, let's make it clear, 55 got hurt from the Foxa hit. That is the quote from Jim Montgomery. He said, let's make it clear, 55 got hurt from the Foxa hit. And again, I'll reiterate, Shen hit Scheifele at 6:12, 6 minutes and 12 seconds into the first period. Scheifele got up. He then went on to play a 47-second shift, a minute and 11-second shift, a 1 minute and 1 second shift. At the end of that fourth shift, following the Shen hit, was when Foxa hit Mark Scheifele. And then Scheifele took one more hit and had a 50-second shift and then did not return in the second period. So my only question is, I think we have Jim Montgomery, so we'll get to that and then we'll close it down. My only question would have been to Scott Arniel, if that was the mindset he was taking, if that's what you believed, why did he take 4 more shifts? And maybe the hockey player's like, I'm good, but I'm only assuming here, and I might be digging myself in a hole, I'm only assuming it would be considered a concussion protocol, right? If it's upper body, has a hit like that, that's why he didn't return. They've got the spotters. If you thought that was it, why did he stay on the bench and play 4 more shifts?
I will say I'm really excited to hear what Jim Montgomery has to say the next time he speaks, because obviously he's probably going to be asked about that, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get, I would imagine you get availability tomorrow. Maybe not since they're flying tonight. But yeah, I mean, you're going to hear both of them talk, and that's where the fireworks always come into play. But let's hear Jim Montgomery's postgame.
But we're on to the next one. It's a playoff series. I thought that was their best game. I thought it was our worst game. We're on to the next one. I mean, we can analyze every part of it. They were better. So we're on to the next one.
Quick one. They got some secondary scoring from their guys tonight, especially after Shifley left. What did you see from your top 3 lines? How can your top 3 lines be better next game?
Well, we got to be more connected. Like, I just, I didn't think our puck support was good enough. I didn't think we got back quick enough. I didn't think we won our forecheck. We didn't establish it. Like I said, it's every facet. But you know what? It's a series, and it's going to happen. Unfortunately, we're not happy about it, but we're on to the next one. It's as simple as that. We got to forget about it now. We're in a series.
Nathan Walker in the 4th line came through pretty well. Were they the best line tonight?
Yeah, I thought they did a lot of good things. Their habits and their game management was excellent. They had a lot of big hits again, and they just keep they keep building our game the right way. So they're a good example of what we need to do.
The way that first period went seemed almost like mayhem out there. I guess we've seen a physical series, but it looks like we're going to continue to see a physical series. No one's winding down.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to stop. I think both teams are competing extremely hard. It's making it a great series.
Jim, there was a long discussion with both coaches and the referees before the second period. Can you shed any light?
Well, I believe, it happens every game. If the ref wants to talk to the ref, if the one coach wants to talk to the ref before the period starts, he needs to come over and tell the other ref what the complaint was about.
Was it about the Shen hit, or?
It was that, yes, it was about the Shen hit. And let's make it clear. 55 got hurt from the Faxa hit. He played 6 minutes after the Shen hit. He didn't come back after he got rocked by Faxa.
Jim, you guys had your backs against the wall so many times. I know you've touched on it a couple times here, but going back to Enterprise Center, you feel like you're in a position where you can rise to the occasion again and force this Game 7?
I believe in our group. We've done it here for 2.5 months. There's no reason to believe that we're not going to be coming out full force and trying to force a Game 7.
Jim's just throwing his microphone out there. I love that. I love that. And this is why we wanted to play, because he didn't just say, let's make it clear 55 was hurt from the Faxa hit, not the Chenda. He backed it up by saying he played 6 minutes after he was hit by Braden Shen. And that's the point that I was trying to get across.
Well, and I think, too, if Scott Arniel's going to say that, then why did he go back out? You got to answer that part of the question, too. Why did Shifley end up back on the ice if he was hurt on the shin?
And I'm assuming some of those writers didn't have the opportunity to look at the shift chart to see how many times they played. Murat Ates and Ken Weber, 2 of the best in the business. So they're the ones asking these questions. But, I mean, that was my first thought was let's look at it and see how many minutes. I'm sure they'll go back and look at it as well. Look, I mean, I'm seeing back and forth of people that believe he did leave his feet, he didn't leave his feet. The reason Jim Montgomery is being aggressive, and Jordan Deacon just told us this, and she's right. The reason he's doing this is because of that Aaron Ekblad hit. You're getting in front of it because Aaron Ekblad hit just happened. He got suspended 2 games. So now the conversation in the NHL is, dirty hit, give him a suspension. He's getting in front of it on that front. And he's right. Like if the official is, if a coach is going to complain to an official about something at the end of the period, then the coach on the other side should know what the complaint was before the start of the next period. And that's where we're at right now. I love this. This is playoff hockey. Like I said, just please do not dampen down, water down playoff hockey by saying they're laying dirty hits. Everybody's playing dirty. They just showed the highlight of Velarde throwing the elbow at Oscar Sundqvist's face. Everybody's playing dirty in this one. It's playoff hockey. And I love every single second of it. We're going to find out what it's going to be for game number 6, man. They're showing the highlights. Montgomery getting angry about the Sundqvist. This thing's going to blow up, and it's going to be so much fun. We've got all of your coverage tomorrow. BK and Ferrario from 11 to 2. I would expect they'll have some availability, but if not, morning skate on Friday before the 7 o'clock puck drop of game number 6, Blues and Jets. Appreciate all of you being a part of this one tonight. Huge shout-out to Grant Francis and Jordan Deacon doing phenomenal work back here in our studios. I'm Alex Ferrario. Blues fall to the Jets 5-3, down 3-2 in the best-of-7 series. Game 6 on Friday from Enterprise Center. We'll have you covered right here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, powered by Scott Lee Heating Company.
On 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario for First Community Credit Union. Every day the world changes. Stock market's down, crypto's up, or is it the other way around?